Welcome everyone to our webinar discussing the value of modern ERP.
Yeah, I'm Darwin Bronigal. I'm a senior manager here at Eide Bailly. Been working in our technology division for over 10 years and in technology itself for 22 plus years. And really enjoy working and solving client problems, and looking forward to Amy's presentation today.
Thank you, Darwin. My name's Amy Knust. I am a partner in our Nebraska office, and I've been working with ERP systems for about 25 years. I'm certified in 6 different ERP applications, and currently a CPA. I did spend 10 years in public accounting as well, so heavy experience in finance as well as manufacturing and distribution. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about modern ERP solutions today and how they might differ from some legacy ERP solutions that you've either had experience with or have been utilizing for several years, and then just provide you some insight on what it looks like to experience a modern ERP.
And today's agenda, as Amy was alluding to, we're going to determine the right time to switch to your business systems. We're also looking to understand primary differences between an ERP application and legacy platforms. There's benefits to modern ERP applications. We want to help you identify those, learn more about future trends that are happening and how they're going to impact your business. Things are happening a lot faster than they had in the past, and understanding the key identifiers and how to evaluate the right technology for your needs. Those are some real important things that we're going to touch on today. Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you on a common technology environment.
Thank you, Darwin. All right. So one thing that we find when we work with clients in the technology sector is that their ecosystems of technology evolve over time. And what you may find is that you have several different systems in your environment that you're utilizing for different purposes. And this is common when you're on a legacy ERP platform that was built for a specific purpose of perhaps handling your financial accounting reporting requirements. And you might need something separate for CRM, for example. You'll have a different email platform that you're using. You have security systems in place. You may have HCM systems that you either outsource or utilize internally. So what that can create is a lot of complexity in the environment. And so modern ERP can help address some of those issues. It's never going to 100% solve the technology challenge, because one application is not meant to support all the needs of a business, but ERP systems today are generally more holistic in their view, and I would call them business centric, and trying to understand how to support the entire needs of the enterprise. And that's different than the design of ERP applications that were built 20 years ago, for example, who really had just a specific purpose of handling accounting and operational systems for an organization. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that as we go through the presentation. Some of the things that you might see in your organization if you are outgrowing your ERP application or in need of a more modern platform include business process constraints. So for example, if your company is experiencing growth and what you're finding is you cannot support that growth without adding people because your processes are manual and you lack automation, that is one leading indicator that could tell you I may have outgrown my platform. I'm going to have to either invest in third-party solutions to solve the business problems that I have, or I'm going to have to hire new people to continue to maintain the same business processes. Stifling innovation is another challenge with legacy ERP applications because technology does become dated over time. And in fact, the pace of change in technology is phenomenal. 10 years is actually a really good useful life for an ERP application anymore, because it's very hard to reinvent your ERP application for the new technology solutions that are available. A lot of the legacy systems were built on old programming languages, or they were not built for the cloud in particular, and they don't leverage the technologies that are available today to help us integrate our supply chains and communicate effectively with suppliers and customers. And those are the kinds of things we're going to need as we go forward. So as we want to innovate and grow and change our business, technology can be a constraint to that if we are not on a modern platform that supports that type of flexibility. Market changes can be another driver. I'm certain that you're aware that there are a lot of, it's a very acquisition-oriented market. in the ERP space. And many of these publishers are out acquiring point solutions to enhance their portfolio. And frankly, in some cases, they're not intending to invest in those solutions. It's very, very difficult to take a legacy application and reinvent it as a cloud-based solution. And to be quite honest, the market has seen its last on-premise application ever built. No one is designing applications today that are built for on-premise environments. They are only building them on cloud-based technologies. So if you're sitting on an application that was built for on-prem and has been ported to the cloud via a hosting model of some sort, you're on a legacy ERP application. It's going to be very difficult for that vendor to reconfigure their solution to fully support the modern platforms and technology that's available. So what you see happening is publishers are having to make choices. And some of those are going out and acquiring new applications. A good example of that is Sage and their acquisition of Intact, to support that need and to have a leading solution in the marketplace. Other publishers like Microsoft, for example, are investing in taking the feature set of one of their common applications like Dynamics Nav and rebuilding that from the ground up in a cloud application like D365 Business Central. Other companies like Oracle have decided to enter the mid-market and to acquire a solution that was already an industry leader like NetSuite in the cloud ERP space. But all of those companies are choosing to invest in these cloud technologies, and they're choosing to retire their legacy ERP applications. And if you're sitting on one of those platforms, then you will ultimately have to make a change. Right? You're not going to have the option to stay on that platform long term. That's a high risk to your business to do so. So if you're seeing some of these things with your publisher, it's good to start looking early because the process of changing systems is lengthy, and you want to make sure you leave adequate time for you to make the right decision, which we're going to talk about later. Visibility is another issue. We used to rely on reporting tools and sometimes third-party reporting tools like Jet Reports or FRX. Or Crystal Reports as an example, to extract data from applications. And nowadays, modern ERP platforms store data in such a way that it is accessible externally, and it can be very easily visualized in tools that are built into the solution. So you no longer need third-party applications to expose the data and to be able to work with it effectively. Performance and integrity, this applies to some entry-level systems more than it would to a mid-market application. But many times transactional volumes will cause people to experience performance issues or integrity issues with the data. They'll have to rebuild their files. They'll have to restore from backup. They'll have issues with being able to access data consistently in the application. And that is definitely an indicator that you've outgrown your solution. And then finally, changing business requirements. So oftentimes you'll find manufacturers, for example, are transitioning to become more of a SaaS vendor as they migrate to models in which they are charging for monitoring and maintenance of the products and solutions that they sell. And that's requiring them to have additional functionality that oftentimes is not supported in their legacy applications like ASC 606, which is a new revenue recognition standard that came into play in recent years. So all of those things can be leading indicators that you might need to investigate ERP applications. And as we think about the key differences between legacy ERP and modern ERP, I like to kind of frame it this way. And legacy ERP, you either see people who are in version lock because they have created such customization or integration in their environment that upgrades are highly expensive and prone to risk. Or you're in a cycle of what seems like endless upgrades that are really a money pit. And you're constantly having to slow down your business for testing and upgrading the existing application. Whereas modern ERP is truly versionless. This is a managed service around your ERP application. So it's a completely different business model than what we saw under legacy ERP. And it's the responsibility of the publisher to ensure that you are always on the current version. And they're going to handle those upgrades for you seamlessly and multiple times per year. So it's essentially outsourcing that upgrade requirement and allowing you to take advantage of new features that are available in the application. Legacy ERP also oftentimes has somewhat fixed processes. There may be some minor feature enablement capabilities within the application, but there's pretty much a fixed way of processing transactions. It was designed for a specific purpose, and we essentially turn it on and off features within the solution, whereas modern ERP is conceptualized much differently. It's highly flexible, and what they're really delivering to you is not a set of functionality that you enable in the application, although they typically have that as well, but they are also providing you with what's called an integrated development environment. And that might sound like a technical term, but it's really codeless customization. So they've given you the tool set that the application was built in, allowing you to create your own business processes and rules and extend the functionality of the solution very easily and without a lot of technical expertise required. They've also done that in such a way that it layers the code into its own business intelligence layer, which allows it to survive the update process. So it becomes a painless upgrade during those versionless migrations. Sometimes your legacy ERP applications are closed environments. If you're on a SQL Server-based application, which many of you likely are, that is not the case with your solution today. However, integration can still be challenging with those platforms if the APIs have not been fully developed, and especially if those APIs have not been enabled for REST capability. So oftentimes you see the need to use some iPaaS solution like eConnect or something like that to get into and out of the ERP environment, whereas modern ERP is really enabled for integration and is going to have all of those development tools exposed to the user so that they can take advantage of either any iPaaS tool that they'd like to choose, or they can just simply enable the APIs directly. In addition, legacy ERP oftentimes struggle to get meaningful data out of the application. So there might be third-party reporting utilities available to you. FRX is a great example of one that's been retired. Many of you may have used that years ago. Nowadays, rather than using third-party reporting tools or forcing you to push your data into Excel in order to work with it effectively, you have built-in analytics and data warehouse capability. And we're going to spend some time looking at a modern ERP solution later today that has some of these capabilities so that you can get a vision for what life might be like in a modern ERP solution. Also, legacy ERP was, again, designed for a specific purpose. So it was designed to generate your accounting records and to help you understand what had happened in your organization so you could extrapolate future results from that and do business planning. But very focused on finance, accounting, and some light operational requirements. Modern ERP is really designed to be more business-centric. So thinking about all the aspects that you need to run your business, which could incorporate those standard ERP functionalities, as well as things like built-in CRM, built-in e-commerce for plug and play e-commerce capabilities, and HCM for human capital management, which it goes above and beyond payroll. It could include performance management, it could include workforce management, it could include recruiting, it could include performance management, all those things you typically see in advanced HCM solutions. So all businesses have some need for these functionalities, and so having them built in a unified system is a hallmark of a modern ERP application. Legacy ERP is sometimes technology dependent, meaning that you must have a footprint of some sort on the workstation. Many many publishers have begun to put a web front end on their solutions, but it still doesn't change the underlying requirement for specific hardware if you want to run that on premise, or the need to host it in a specific infrastructure environment. Whereas modern ERP is mobile and operating system / browser agnostic. So you can bring your own device to these environments, and you don't need to worry about any technology dependencies through the life cycle of the use of your product. And then from a pricing perspective, these can be very different as well. So most legacy ERP has moved to a subscription model, unless you are still owning something you purchased under a perpetual license years ago, but you likely still have infrastructure costs of some sort, whether that be hosting or you've got your solution on-prem. You're still paying in some way for infrastructure costs and support. Whereas modern ERP, this is part of that managed service. And so it is 100% subscription based. The pricing is often different depending on the platform. You can have per user based pricing, you can have module based pricing, some combination thereof. You can have industry specific bundling. There's a number of different ways that you can have a consumption model that ERP applications look at their pricing structure. But at the end of the day, it is entirely a subscription model that is generally in some way, shape, or form tied to consumption. So in terms of what that looks like to you as a user, it may seem that our legacy ERP applications are much less expensive, right, than a modern ERP platform. And that's primarily because licensing is generally a lower portion of legacy ERP costs. And because the managed service is built into licensing, in the modern ERP environment, it typically looks quite a bit different. But if you really looked at all the dollars involved in investing in and maintaining a legacy ERP application, it is generally significantly higher than owning and managing a modern ERP solution. You typically don't need the IT commitment and resources. You don't need the infrastructure costs. You don't have the downtime issues, and you don't have the ongoing and endless upgrades. As well as the complexities of some of the integrations. So there can be a lot of costs that you're not really considering when you think about this. It's just going to look a lot different as you start to investigate modern ERP solutions, and keep all of those things in mind. Okay, so just a few statistics for you. It can be up to 5 times as expensive to maintain a legacy ERP system as opposed to maintaining a modern ERP platform. And part of this is about ease of use. Part of it is about the flexible platform and putting the tools in the hands of the users and not making it such a technical exercise to personalize and grow with the solution. So less IT investment overall required to maintain it. In terms of legacy ERP companies or users within organizations, about 2/3 of those are on old or outdated versions. They are not on the most current version of the solution because it's painful to upgrade, right? It's time consuming, it's expensive, and oftentimes it causes problems with the business. So essentially you stay on the platform that you're on as long as it's working, but what that does is essentially stifles innovation. So time and resources are devoted to maintaining the application as opposed to growing the business and investing in strategies. It's typically also more fragmented. We talked about the unified structure of modern ERP encompassing more than just finance and operations. And so when we do have multiple systems, it adds complexity to the process. And complexity translates into cost. Okay, so what can be some of the benefits the organization could realize from a modern ERP application? First of all, it permits growth without additional investment in infrastructure. So we can scale these applications up as needed, as compute capacity additional compute capacity is required. You are not going to have to invest in hardware to support that. So if your volumes increase, you don't have any additional cost necessarily. You're going to be able to have the infrastructure from the cloud hosting vendor automatically scale up for you without additional investment. You can focus on your core competency because this is a managed service, just like many of you may outsource your payroll and HR. It's very common, about 50% of companies are outsourcing that today. You can focus on your core competencies instead of managing your IT investment here. Around your ERP system, maintenance, uptime, disaster recovery, upgrades, enhancements, all of that is the responsibility of the publisher and not the responsibility of your organization. We talked about being versionless, software always being current, and encouraging innovation and the ability to leverage that new functionality instantaneously. The unified database, which really is one version of the truth. So if you have CRM in a separate location from your ERP, which in any Dynamics environment, you really do, even though there's tight integration between the two, those are two completely separate databases. Within a modern ERP application, you have one version of the truth. And it doesn't matter who's looking at the application, they're getting the same visibility to that customer holistically. It can provide you as a result with an omni-channel customer experience. So what the customer is seeing online are doing online, we can have visibility to in store or in the back office as we're working with that same customer record. So truly having a 360-degree view of our interaction with both customers and vendors. It also adds the ability to have real-time visibility into customer relationships, supplier relationships, profitability, as well as encompassing things like our human capital workforce as well. It's platform-based. So what that means is rather than delivering a set of functionality, it's delivering you an environment in which you essentially design your business processes accordingly. Usually it'll have best practices or leading practices built into it so that you can leverage those capabilities directly into your business and then expand the solution from there. It's going to make it easy for your users to do that. And in many cases, when you're on a platform like SQL, you have the ability to do that today, but it is a more technical exercise to do so. These platforms are 100% mobile, natively supporting mobile workforce and bring your own device environments. They're all HTML5 architected so that they are going to resize their screens automatically depending on the device you're working on. They're all going to have free apps in the App Store that you can download and utilize. Because they're all going to be web-based, they also enable collaboration with customers, vendors, and partners. So now, not only do I have visibility inside my four walls, I can extend that visibility beyond my organization as well and start to tighten those relationships with my customers and my supply chain. And they're finally going to provide you with insightful reporting. So these are personalized key performance indicator libraries that are designed to your industry and are going to help you essentially jumpstart your business and better understand those drivers that are leading to your success. Operational trend reporting is another great example. We're no longer just looking at financial metrics when we're thinking about KPIs. We're looking at competitive analysis and operational statistics as well. And then finally, they're going to have forecasting capability that is more advanced than what you would see typically in legacy ERP solutions. Let's talk in more depth about the benefits of modern ERP. So scalability is really about being able to take 1 to 1,000 users and use the same system without the need to do anything from an infrastructure perspective. And if you can just imagine what it would be like to put 1,000 users on your existing environment and what would need to be done to do that, it can be a very daunting task. But with modern ERP, you don't even need to blink an eye to grow in the solution. It also has modular functionality, allowing you to scale out and add functionality as you expand. And then the platform approach allowing for rapid deployment of company-specific solutions. So this is about supporting your growth and diversity as a company. The unified platform is a holistic view of the entity. So this is just a graphic that talks about supply chain, manufacturing, finance, sales, e-commerce, plug and play e-commerce for B2C and B2B transactions built out of the box. So you're no longer having to tie your Shopify or your Magento system, your big commerce system into your ERP and deal with the headache of that integration. This is visibility directly into your inventory and essentially an extension of your order entry platform being exposed to your customers through an e-commerce website. HR and payroll, full HCM capabilities, and then to extend this beyond the four walls, vendor and customer portals that are available as well. The other thing that modern ERP applications can do is reduce risk. So removing that reliance on tribal knowledge of your business systems and your infrastructure. How many of you have a scenario where the IT is the only one who's really capable of generating a comprehensive report in the application? That's just going to stifle your innovation and your growth. It will also actually improve your data security, your system reliability, and your uptime. These will generally have a 99.97% guaranteed uptime on most of these modern ERP applications, and you don't have to worry about data security and system reliability. That's the responsibility of your ERP vendor, and they're going to take care of that for you and ensure that your system is always available and always accurate. Automated disaster recovery and redundancy. Managed service it is also responsible for compliance with regulations. So if you have GDPR requirements, if you have PHI requirements, if you have PCI for your credit card information, all of those things are being managed by your ERP vendor. So you can focus on your human capital resources and your core competencies. I think mobility is another real advantage. Particularly, we learned this through the pandemic, when many workers were trying to work remotely, and oftentimes legacy ERP applications that did not have web front ends would require you to use some form of remote desktop to get into that application. Having your real-time access to your data anywhere, anytime, any device is the value of modern ERP, or one of the values of modern ERP. And it provides that mobility so you can essentially be on the go and have access to all of your data via a very well-established app. Visibility to your business intelligence at your fingertips. Transactional data in multiple geographies, languages, and legislation. So these are now all global systems. Legacy ERP applications were generally built for a single legislation or geography, and therefore there were constraints to growth. And it became difficult, right, to extend beyond your borders. That is no longer the case with modern ERP. These are all globally capable solutions with legislations, languages, currencies, and multi-company functionality built in to the model that allows you to really grow and scale. They're not dependent on hardware specifications. There's no footprint on the workstation anymore, and there's no server required for any of these. So the performance is dependent only on the speed of your internet connection. So those are some benefits of modern ERP today. But what are the upcoming trends in ERP? Well, there is a tremendous amount of digital transformation going on in the ERP industry as well. So there are things like artificial intelligence. I just came off of an ERP conference a couple of weeks ago, and heavy investment is being made in modern ERP applications around AI and predictive intelligence. And these are tools that are going to benefit organizations and provide you with competitive advantages if you are on a platform that supports them going forward. Machine learning is another example. RPA, which is robotic process automation, is going to be built into processes. I just got done speaking with a manufacturer last week, and they had acquired their first bot. And it was supporting some of their accounting requirements where they had to re-enter data from one system to another. But these are all things that are going to be built-in components of ERP applications in the future, as long as you are on a modern platform, and you're going to be able to do more with less because of these digital capabilities. So let's dive a little deeper into what those mean. So artificial intelligence, also sometimes called predictive intelligence, and it today is in use in some applications like Salesforce. They have a tool called Einstein scoring. And what Einstein scoring will do for you is it looks across all of your opportunities, and it learns about your sales cycle through your historical progression process of migrating opportunities through your sales cycle. And therefore, it can predict for you how likely you are to close an opportunity based upon things like activities and communications that are occurring in that opportunity. So rather than just relying on pipeline reports, we can now get some real insightful intelligence based upon our historical experience with the application, how our business is going to perform in the future. And that's really the benefit for this technology. ERP is becoming less of a backward-looking reporting tool and more of a forward-looking predictive intelligence tool that can be really used to manage our business. But that's only going to be available to you in a modern ERP application, because those are the only companies that can afford to invest in it. So some examples in ERP, we see these today in companies like NetSuite, anticipating supply chain issues based upon historical performance and machine learning. So looking at what my vendors have been historically doing and making predictions on their delivery, on-time delivery percentages, for example, or when an expected purchase order will actually arrive based upon that historical experience, can be very valuable, particularly in an environment where we have a lot of volatility in that supply chain. This can help us create resiliency within that portion of our organization. Identifying dynamic discounting opportunities with our suppliers, making appropriate recommendations, improving collections and cash flows, again, with predictive intelligence around customer payments and defaults. So all of these things are possible, and heavy investment is going into this from all the modern ERP vendors. Another good example is robotic process automation. So we talked about this a little bit. This is automation built into your application that could be designed to automate a standard business process, to integrate two applications together. One use case that I've seen in the ERP environment is if you do have a small amount of EDI in your environment and you do not have an integrated EDI platform, rekeying that information between the EDI system and the ERP system can be prone to errors and problematic and time consuming and resource intensive for human capital. A bot can produce that for you automatically. So it is another form of integration capabilities that might be a little less expensive to get into and provide you with that level of automation that can help you grow without adding people. Bank reconciliation is another great example with integration to banking platforms. So those are just some areas in which RPA will be impacting ERP applications. Another good example is blockchain. Blockchain is a digital record of transactions, and the name comes from its structure. So each individual record is a block, and they are linked together with a digital chain. And it's actually kind of a series of numbers with specific encoding on the beginning and the end that ensure that that chain cannot be broken. And some use cases that we see today is any vendors that are working with Coca-Cola, all their bottlers, they must transact their transactions on the Coca-Cola blockchain. They will not allow you to procure anything from Coca-Cola unless you do it through the blockchain. So integration with blockchain in ERP systems is going to become incredibly important over the next decade. Blockchain has the potential to be a transformational technology to the accounting and finance industry and just to business in general. And your application is going to have to adapt to that. And again, legacy ERP applications will just not be retrofitted to these types of technologies. Another good example is Walmart that currently requires all their suppliers of leafy green vegetables to have transactions in the blockchain. And the purpose there is not to record the financial transaction, but the purpose is to have complete cradle to grave tracking of that food product, right? And understand from a recall perspective where that product originated. So another great example is transacting cryptocurrency. If any of you are watching the news, the United States, I think it was Janet Yellen, is that her name? Just came out with a statement that the US is investigating creating their own cryptocurrency or digital coin. That will, without question, be transacted on the blockchain. And so these kinds of things are going to become mainstream. And right now, the legacy ERP is not capable of dealing with these new technologies. Okay. Okay, so I'm just checking on time here, 12:34. We'll talk a little bit about how do we know what's right for our business. And one of the rules of thumb that I use and what I coach people with is to utilize the 5 Ps of ERP selection process. And those are publisher, platform, product, price, and partner. And coincidentally, they all happen to start with P. But they all represent a significant component of the decision-making process. Most people who are evaluating ERP, they focus strictly on product and price. Right? That becomes their most relevant selection criteria. But I would suggest that it is more important to think about publisher, platform, and partner, because price is negotiable. With any of these modern ERP vendors, they're going to work with you to be competitive with other applications in their space. And from a product perspective, because these are platforms as opposed to just point solutions, and you're going to have the ability to expand this out, you're really looking for an 80 or 90% fit from a functional perspective, and you'll be able to extend the solution to meet your specific business processes. So gaps in functionality are much less important today than they were historically. However, understanding the direction of your publisher and the tool set that this product is built in, as well as finding a partner that is the right fit for you, are really important things to look at as well. And people often overlook that in the evaluation process. So we're going to talk a little bit about these, and then I am going to transition fairly quickly here to giving you a bit of an overview of a solution, because I know we're running short on time. Okay, so when I'm thinking about the publisher, I want to know how long they've been in business. Is this a brand new ERP application designed specifically for a very niche portion of the market that I happen to fit in? And what is their critical mass? Do they have significant customers? The reason you want to know that is because they cannot afford to invest in their solution and continue to help it grow if they don't have a sufficient set of customers. So it is important to know how relatively large they are, and so that you can understand their capacity to continue to invest in the solution. And then what is their history? Many of these publishers are really private equity companies, right? And they are simply buying these solutions for their customer base, and they want to then migrate them to another platform within their portfolio. So what is the history of this particular publisher? Are they willing to invest? Do they have the developer network to be able to do that? Or did they acquire my system simply to continue to maintain it and get maintenance revenue out of the solution and ultimately transition me to another product? So think about that publisher. Many of them are very acquisition oriented. Sage is a great example of this. I know you guys aren't on a Sage platform, but they typically acquire their solutions, and they have a number of solutions in the portfolio that they have not invested in a number of years. They just recently acquired Intact, and they're going to put their money behind that product. So it's important to know what solution your company is investing in. If you're on, let's say, Dynamics Solomon, Dynamics GP, Dynamics IX, or Dynamics NAV, those platforms have been transitioned, right? They're moving towards D365 Business Central and D365 F&O. And the platforms that survived there were NAV and Dynamics AX, essentially from a functionality perspective. So, you want to make sure that you are investing in a solution that your publisher is also investing in, right? Today, we wouldn't want to buy an application like one of those four I just mentioned because the publisher is not going to continue to develop them. Okay, from a platform perspective, make sure you understand the tool set that this is built in. Does it have open APIs? Are they SOAP APIs? Are they REST APIs? Does it have pre-built integrations? How mature is it in the marketplace? Does it have an app store, for example, where a significant number of ISVs have extended around the functionality? How flexible is it from an enhancement perspective? Make sure you look at the personalization tools within the platform and make sure you're capable of managing and essentially taking ownership of them. How do I automate my business? Does it have a built-in workflow engine? Does it have any automation that I can leverage, and how reliable is that platform? What are the uptime guarantees? How secure is it to manage my business? For product perspective, this is what everyone focuses on. Does it support your core functional needs? Is it built for your industry? Does it utilize best practices? Do they have referenceable customers that are in my industry? Are my peers using it? Right? Those kinds of questions I think are very relevant to ask your publisher. Price is, I think, the least important criteria, again, because you're going to have some ability to negotiate this. And if you're looking at products that are in the same class, if you're looking at mid-market solutions, they're all going to be comparably priced. There may be some slight differences in the way they bundle their solutions, but they will always be competitive and work to provide you with a return on investment that fits in your budget. And then finally, I think it's important to look at the partner you're working with. Are you going directly to the publisher? Because oftentimes you can be working in a very transactional environment then, where there really isn't a lifetime view of that relationship. Partners oftentimes will give you a more holistic approach and more of a white glove service to your implementation and optimization strategies. But you also want to understand that the partner you're working with has experience in your industry, that they have been working for a significant period of time with the product that you are selecting to implement, that they're aligned to your vision and strategy, and that they can support your organization long term. So it's important to make sure you have a good cultural and functional fit with that partner. Okay. I am going to transition now into a demonstration of the NetSuite solution, and just to illustrate some of these modern ERP capabilities. And there are other applications in the marketplace that have similar functionality, but this will just give you a representative example of what it looks and feels like to be in a modern ERP platform. And of course, we can't show the full depth and breadth of the solution today, but what we are going to focus on is some of the data analytics and reporting tools that are available out of the box. So give you a bit of a flavor of that. So what you should see now is an example of a NetSuite dashboard. And this is essentially a view of what they call Suite Analytics. Everything in NetSuite is named Suite something. Suite Analytics is a combination of reporting tools and productivity tools that allows you to extract actionable intelligence from your ERP environment. And so we're going to just talk through a couple of the reporting tools that might be built into a modern ERP application and use NetSuite as an example. So starting over here on the left side of my dashboard, what I have is a series of reminders. So this is, for example, action items that I need to take relative to data that has been placed in my environment. So I'm going to go ahead and right click a couple of these to give you some visibility. Just grab late sales orders. And what this is doing is opening in another tab for me. So those reminders can drill me down directly into functional areas of the application, or they can drill me down into queries or reports that are providing me with relevant data. In this case, I'm looking at a list of late sales orders. These will always be drillable. So one nice thing about modern ERP is drill down, drill around capability without having to exit and navigate a menu structure. You'll always see something that is either highlighted in blue or has underlined capability, and you're going to be able to click on those and it will drill you down to the underlying transaction. So you can see up here, it's looking to open that sales order directly over my saved search view of my late sales order, so I can get a better understanding of what customers impacted and specifically which items, right, may not be shipped yet to that customer. Because it's a web-based application, you can use your navigation buttons back and forward, and all of these views of the data are going to be exportable, right, to typical Office applications. Like in this case, I just hit the Excel button. I'm exporting it to Excel. So they're all going to have common Office integration capabilities. And all you typically have to do is maybe widen some of your columns to be able to work with your data effectively. Mine's still being reviewed by Defender to make sure that it's not, doesn't contain any viruses. I can also turn these into a spreadsheet simply within the application. So you'll notice I've got this little button that says edit. I have a field over here that says memo with a pencil next to it. So if I want to put a note here, need to call ACOM RE product delivery dates. I can just put a note in there and it's going to insert that into the record and store it with the sales order on the memo field. So you can just turn these list views directly into Excel spreadsheets essentially. And you can of course customize and personalize your own searches. So they've given you a very easy to use tool to do that. From a workflow perspective, this particular reminder drilled me into an approval view where I can actually execute on approvals of expense reports. Typically, modern ERP applications will have built-in workflow engines that allow you not only to handle approvals, but also to automate the creation of records, to do data validation, to lock records, to create rules over transactions, and essentially do anything that a user would do repetitively. And these are going to be point and click based workflow tools. This one's taking me down to this expense report where I have the opportunity to view more detail. And if I wanted to, I can simply hit the edit button because I have rights to do so. And I can approve it directly from this screen simply by checking my accounting approval button. And once I save it, you can see that the transaction successfully saved and posted, and it's been approved by accounting. You can always view the underlying general ledger impact of those transactions from a single drill down. So very easy to understand what the accounting impact was of that particular transaction. I'm just going to come back here to my dashboard. I'm using my, my home navigation button. And the other way to approve transactions, of course, is to do them in bulk. If I wanted to, I could just check some boxes here after I've drilled down on the transactions, say save, and I can automatically approve those. I will go ahead and go back. And we'll take a look at another gadget type. One option I'm going to have is to personalize this to my needs. So if I hit the setup button, I can drag any of these right onto my dashboard. And if there's anything that's required for me to take action on, it's going to show up here automatically. I also want to mention the key performance indicators. So we talked a little bit about operational and financial KPIs. This KPI gadget just lets me compare and view trend graphs associated with how my metrics are trending over time. And I do have the ability to interact with these as opposed to just view the numbers on screen. Of course, I can drill down because these records are in blue. So I'm going to be able to get to the underlying report that created it. I'm also going to be able to view this for just a single subsidiary or across all entities. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Drill it down. And maybe I want to look at this for a different period. We'll just grab our date selector, switch it to this year, hit the refresh button. And then if I want to better understand this operationally, I might want to extend it by class, department, location, or any other dimension that I want to utilize for financial reporting. So as you can see, it starts to spread that information. And from a customization perspective, it's very easy to customize operational reports in the application. All the tables have been pre-joined for me, and it's easy to just search for a field, for example, and add it to my report. So these report writers are completely built in. They're tied into the security naturally within the application. Give it a minute here. I'll just grab that field, move it left, group my customer with it, rename it, call it sales by sales rep. And I've created a brand new report, including my sales rep information, grouped that by customer, renamed it, made it available for all of my users. So it's not a technical exercise, right? To extend the functionality of the application. And then I can do the same things with stratifying my information now. If I want to see it, let's say by month, to see how my customer sales are trending, I can do that very easily. And of course, drill down capability from reports as well. If I want to better understand what makes up a particular number, double click on it, and now I can get down to the individual invoice that created it. These reports can, of course, all be emailed, and they can also be scheduled to go to users on a recurring basis. So we used to have to use third-party tools to do that. Those kinds of things are now completely built into the application. I'm going to slip back to my dashboard. I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to do a couple things with the dashboard here just to give you an illustrative example of how easy it is to personalize. I just hit the personalize button in the upper right-hand corner. I can drag and drop any of these gadget types onto the screen, right? And then I can interact with that gadget. So that should just be my calendar. If I want to see that on a monthly basis, if I wanted to create a new call, appointment, task, or activity, I can do that directly from the calendar. And I'll pull on an analytics view as well. There are built-in pivot tables and charts, so we no longer have to extract our data to Excel to get meaningful information out of it. We can have full pivot tables and charting engines built into the solution. I'm just going to grab this sales orders workbook, and we'll pull that analytics portlet on. And I've already pre-developed a stacked bar chart that's going to show me sales by customer or by sales rep. And if I wanted to make changes to that, I can simply open it inside the analytics workbook. And this is an engine that lets me build my own pivot tables and charts. So in this case, right, I've specified my x-axis is a sales rep. My color stack is by item. I'm showing just my top 10 items. I'm not showing all of my items. If I wanted to, I can completely change this and say, nope, I want to see it by customer. And then I want to see it by class. So give me by category instead of by item, right? Very drag and drop. Let's go ahead and delete that. And then I'll just refresh. And it'll rebuild my stacked column chart and show me additional information. If I wanted to just maybe see my top 10 customers, make this a little easier to read. And then any of these can be placed on my dashboard as you saw me do earlier. So lots of nice tools to be able to manage your business. I have a few more minutes here. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard and I'm going to remove this gadget. I'm going to drill down to I'm going to actually pull this on here. I'm going to pull something on called the subsidiary navigator. We can create our own custom portlets. So you could design your own gadget that visualizes data from an external database into NetSuite if you needed to do so. Again, that'll be a feature of any modern ERP application. I'm going to choose from here my subsidiary navigator. This is one thing I think that differentiates modern ERP from legacy ERP. Used to be you had kind of a separate company code, right, for each organization in your organizational hierarchy. And sometimes you have to log in and out in order to see those various entities. In NetSuite, or in any modern ERP, you're going to have more of a organizational hierarchy where a single login is going to give me visibility across multiple companies. Right now, you can see I'm looking at just my headquarters company, but if I wanted to drill into just a single legal entity here, I can drill down and it recasts all my gadgets with just information for that entity. This one doesn't have a whole lot going on. Let's see if I can find one that does. And it also reports it in their native reporting currency. Right, so now I'm looking at the British pound. If I want to look at headquarters, now it will translate all that automatically with single click consolidation up to my headquarters reporting currency, which is US dollars. And now I'm looking across all entities. So I call that single click consolidation. It is the easiest way I've ever seen to actually have multiple entities and to enable that inside of an application. Okay, finally, the last thing I want to illustrate here is it is actually easier with these modern ERP applications to combine data from other ERP solutions or other external solutions and visualize that inside your environment. I do have a tool here called the Analytics Warehouse. And this is data from my NetSuite environment being exposed in a data warehouse and combined with CRM data. For example, if I have a Salesforce tool or some other application that I'm using, maybe it's combined with operational data from my manufacturing systems that are managing my machines on the floor. In any case, I can take all of that data and combine it into some actionable intelligence. So let's just assume that this pipeline data is coming in from my Salesforce environment. I can drill into that data and see more information in the Analytics Warehouse. And here I can do some stratification and some filtering of that data. Maybe I just want to look at a single sales rep. Let's look at Bert. And it's going to recast the entire dashboard for me just for Bert's information. Maybe I want to better understand what's going on in the month of March. I can now drill down and start to see that sales information by day. Right, so it begins to be able to help you tell a story with your data as opposed to just looking at metrics on the screen. It can help you understand the root cause of a problem in your organization and essentially very easily manipulate that data to get the information that you need. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to turn it back to Darwin to see if we have had any questions.
Thanks, Amy. Nice presentation. There's one question in the Q&A, and that is there any integration between NetSuite and Asana for calendar functionality? Typically, Asana integrations to NetSuite for calendars is handled through utilizing a iPaaS solution, similar to Celigo, Workato, or Boomi. You see a lot of Celigo in that case for calendars, and regardless if you're handling calendars or some other small data functionalities in there. And Amy, you may want to, if you think of anything else, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're looking for a specific integration with any modern ERP platform, NetSuite included, if you're dealing with a platform that is well established in the marketplace, that has been around for a significant amount of time, many times your vendor of choice that you're working with, Asana in this example, will already have a plugin built. And some of these plugins are actually free. So what Darwin's talking about is a separate iPaaS solution. There are several of those out there in the marketplace, and they're great because all of these tools have exposed APIs. And what the iPaaS does is it connects those APIs together, provides those to you in a visual tool, and lets you do the mapping between the two applications. And it's a codeless integration model. So that's always an option with these modern tools. However, I oftentimes find, and I haven't done the research on Asana particularly, that somebody has already done this, right? It's a established platform. Both of those are common systems. And so you can oftentimes find that out of the box.
And so the next question in the chat room is the typical conversion move from a GP Dynamics to modern ERP. What do you plan for to accommodate for the best outcome?
That's a wonderful question. My history of doing this, about 20 years of doing ERP migrations to a number of different platforms, it's going to depend on your industry. Honestly, that there is more complexity as you move from, let's say, a financials only environment to a distribution environment to a manufacturing environment to a service environment. So I have different rules of thumb that I use depending on your environment. So for core accounting, I usually say 2 to 4 months. That can typically be done pretty quickly. If you are looking at distribution, I usually say 4 to 6. Manufacturing, 6 to 9. We're usually looking at under a year of migration. Now, that's common for a mid-sized business, maybe an implementation that's going to run between 800 and 1,000 hours. If you start to get into large enterprise businesses with, let's say, 200 to 300 users, that's also going to add a layer of complexity to the equation. So keep that in mind. These are just rules of thumb for the average size business that, let's say, has between 15 and 50 users.
And to add to that, you have a full-time day job, and so we take that into account as we factor in how fast you can move. So we can move faster than a typical company that's migrating. It's just a matter of taking into account you have a life to live too. So we want to keep that in the back of our minds. So.
And Darwin's contact information as well as mine is on the screen. So feel free to take a snapshot of that and reach out to us if you have any questions that are specific to your business. I would also volunteer that we'd be happy to give you a personalized walkthrough of, in this case, the NetSuite solution. We could also support you with the Dynamics 365 solution as well.